Okay, now we can start our architectural meeting. We have many items today. So Alex, you're the first one.
Yeah, yes. So GraphQL versioning.
Versioning in GraphQL.
Okay.
We added something I forgot.
A week ago.
Mm-hmm.
You're number one.
I can open it if you want.
So in GraphQL we have general practice of versionless APIs. At least that's what GraphQL community recommends. And it should work in most cases, and some of the cases which are covered: removal of existing fields gradually via deprecation, addition of new fields to existing types. It's also not breaking change because customer requests specific set of fields and it doesn't affect the customer if the new field appears in the schema. However, there are some cases when it is difficult to make it versionless, and some of those cases are, let's say, if you have products query and it accepts some arguments, and then we decide to completely redesign set of arguments for products field, like products query. This can cause a problem with naming. So it's possible to solve it in backward compatible way if we introduce completely new query instead of the old one. However, it gives us headache with naming, and we obviously don't want to name something inappropriately just because we need to find another alternative name. So if we have products and we introduce another query for products just with different arguments, it would probably make sense to keep products naming as it was previously, and
as opposed to coming up with some new name that has nothing to do with products.
Yes. So it will probably be some products, but it will be some ugly name, which will be just confusing because you will have products, you will have some other kind of products, and then another kind of products. So it will be confusing, and suggestion is to introduce agreement that we can use suffixes, like we can use, let's say, v1 or v2. So I suggest to start from v2 because like currently we have some v1, basically implicit v1. So I suggest to start from v2 suffixes for fields which cannot be named properly and maintaining backward compatibility at the same time. So that is one suggestion. Alternative solutions which were considered were introduce versioning on endpoint level, which is again extremely weird for GraphQL because usually you are supposed to have single schema, you are supposed to integrate with single API endpoint and then just query whatever you need from your client application. And there was one more suggestion to introduce versioning on the level of modules, I believe, and it would be tied to module version. But to me, it seems also complicated, and I'm not sure if we need to even go into details with that option. But if there are some concerns with using suffixes, we can definitely consider other options, and feel free to leave comments. Additionally, after some time, we can go back to original name. So let's say a couple years past, we already removed products. We have just products v2 in the schema. It may look weird as well because you will have just products v2, but no products. So we may consider going back to products after some time. That's another.
Assuming nobody's using the old one.
Yeah, like after some time, maybe like 5 years, for example, we can go back to just products.
Well, the time is irrelevant. What's relevant is if anyone's using it.
Yeah.
The problem you have no idea of knowing if anyone is using it. Like in SaaS applications, you can do that when you control application and you know exactly what queries are made to your application. In case of GraphQL, you have knowledge of what queries are used, what fields are actually requested, and that will work. However, in case of Magento, it is a platform and we have no way of knowing what clients are actually using. But that's just extra extra idea, so it's absolutely optional. But the main piece is just to agree that for cases like we recently had for changing filters in products, we can just introduce suffix like products v2, for example.
I have a question. For example, if we add new field, so we also add suffix for that, and it will.
Like if you're in just new fields, you don't add any suffixes. It's only if you need to make backward compatible change and you don't want to come up with completely new name. If you want to preserve a name.
Yeah, and if I want to preserve the name of the field, but.
Oh, I mean you want to change field. You don't want to add new field. You want to change existing field. Yeah, it's the same.
Well, if it's backwards compatible, it's fine. It's only if you introduce a breaking change.
So if you change type of the field, for example, it is the same. You cannot change type.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a breaking change.
That's a breaking change, and that's why like you can introduce like suffix.
Yeah, but at the same time we add suffix to those fields, but the like mutation and remains the same, correct?
Depends. If you can preserve backward compatibility of mutation, then yes. If you cannot, then you just introduce mutation.
Yeah, I'm just like I want to understand.
What do you mean field? Do you mean argument, or do you mean field? Field is like in response, and argument is what is like provided as in parentheses, which is request arguments.
In response, for example.
Okay.
And I'm just I just want to avoid some confusions when we will have changed fields with suffix, but at the same time, mutations or queries will use these fields with suffixes and not to mix up.
So in response types, adding new field will never be breaking change. So it can be breaking change in arguments only.
And if in arguments we add suffix, but mutation remains the same.
Arguments, we don't change arguments. We just replace mutation completely.
Okay, so I'm writing down that it would be good to add more details.
Examples.
Maybe examples, maybe more details. Like, okay, this.
But it's general approach. Like if you cannot find a way to do it backward compatible, then probably.
Yeah, I mean you can just add a sentence that it touches mutations, type, or maybe not types.
You mentioned that it's mostly about arguments, like when you try to modify arguments of a mutational query.
But it's also about fields. Why? What do you mean?
If you introduce in which case? If you introduce a new field, it doesn't matter. It is not breaking change.
If you want to change the field, you will have to introduce new field.
If you want
with
to change,
v2, for example.
If you want to change type of existing field, then yes, you have. We can add.
So what I'm saying is that maybe you can add the sentence or add the examples. Okay. I don't know. In my opinion, I wouldn't even touch renaming back the thing that you mentioned, which is not documented there.
I think that it's possible to consider sometime in the future.
It's possible. I just if you consider that and you document it, I would probably disagree with that because I don't see value in it. But if you're talking about 5 years in the future, it probably just doesn't matter right now.
I'm just imagining a world where you have 20 different fields and you've got products 42 and you've got something else 12 and how do you keep all this in your mental model of your brain?
All previous ones will be deprecated, so you will, if you need products, and eventually, remove some of them. So if you need products, you just find products, whatever V is there, and if it's not deprecated, you just use that one.
Because it's going to auto-complete it for you, you mean, right?
Probably, yes. So you are looking for something which is not deprecated and which looks like what you need.
And in general, to be honest, I don't expect a lot of changes
as
soon as we have more customers. Because right now, the biggest problem was we designed these APIs without actual clients. And now when we start having some clients, they find use cases which just don't work for them. Mm-hmm. And we have to change. But as soon as we have real clients, I don't think we will have any major changes in APIs anymore. And this is what happened in our REST. So we had versioning capabilities designed, but we never used them because we had clients basically from day one, I would say. At least internally we were using the same APIs as PHP interfaces. So
Okay.
And we never have to change them.
Next.
Any big any other big concerns or something? If not, you can refine the proposal. We can merge it, I guess. Next one is Lena. And for everybody here in the room, we have technical difficulties, so please just join Blue Jeans. Looks like screen sharing doesn't work here.
So the problem that we faced in GraphQL right now is that we started working on wishlist, and since we have different mutations for different type of products, it caused that for wishlist we will have to have the same behavior, new 7 mutations to add products to wishlist, and 7 more to convert products from wishlist to cart. And this proposal with single mutation is trying to solve this problem and, so to say, simplify this.
Can you zoom a little bit?
Zoom, yeah. Is it better?
Mm-hmm.
Let me describe. So here is the proposed schema, a single mutation for add product to cart. The most important thing is cart item input. It will consist of school, quantity, parent school, selected options, and entered options. The most interesting are selected and entered options. It's described in the document. So, for example, it's for simple product. I want to add blue cup with my special, personalized cup to the shopping cart. How the mutation will look like? I will add school its cup, quantity, selected options. This is just a hash. Right now it's base 64 encoded string, which contains the value of configurable 24, 42. What's 24 and 42? 24 is option ID, it's color, and 42 it's option value ID, it's blue. So this is the approach how all of the selected by user options will be encoded and sent in this request. A little bit different approach will be with entered options. For example, if I want to personalize this cup and add some, I don't know, it's my awesome cup. So the same approach. This is my custom options, and this is the ID. ID and value both will be base 64 encoded. One important thing that it's not like client-side work. This value should be present on front end, which means that products query needs to return this data about possible options that are available for this specific product. If we go, for example, at virtual product cart, the same. Let's say that we want to add personalized membership with the expiration date to cart. So we will have the same. This is just encoded configurable ID and value. The same approach like was for the color. Entered options, yeah, the same. Gift card, it's entered options with amount. So you will see the same approach. Probably the most things are bundled and grouped. If we want to add dinnerware kit, I want to add cup and saucer, for example, to cart. In this case, I need need to send my parents' code in order to understand that this is bundle product. This is specific case because of specific Magento behavior right now. So if a bundle product is added to cart where options, they should be identical for all children. Because right now we don't have an option from front end to add bundle products, bundle child products with different options. All of them should have the same set, the identical set of options.
Okay. Yeah, so I'd just like to clarify. Basically, the problem is that you have to assign option to parent, not to children. And there is no way in current structure, if you don't introduce completely new mutation, there is no way to assign any options to parent, because you have only a reference to parent school in each item. And that's why compromise was not to complicate API and have this suboptimal implementation for this very narrow use case when you have fixed price bundle product with custom options. And if you have dynamically priced bundle product, there is no way to set custom options for it. So it's only for very specific use case we have. This is basically the most problematic part of this proposal right now.
Yeah, thanks. Here are added examples for different type of products, and also query for wishlist, which will look pretty the same. That we want. It will help us in future to just convert wishlist items to cart items. Probably that's it about this proposal. In order to achieve all of this, few important steps need to be implemented. First is that we need to give front-end information about these selected and entered options. We need to return this data in products query, and then front-end will be able to get this data and send it in the add to cart mutation.
And also to clarify here, value in entered options will still be encoded on the client side. So
value,
yes, in entered options. All IDs and yes, this one, and everything else will be coming from server side.
Sorry guys, it's Irina. I have a question. Do we have support of custom option type file with current approach?
No, we don't.
Sorry, yes, you just presented as the entered options. Okay. One thing which this proposal is doing is it separates options from merchant-defined options from buyer input options. So for this proposal, existed two big families. One big family, this is a family of options which merchant has to specify an admin, like drop-downs, multi-selects, checkbox, everything. And other family, this is option which we are expecting to receive from a buyer. So with this proposal, you have two different arguments. One is entered options, other one is just options. So if you want to specify image, you have to put this image into entered options in a format which is pretty compatible to format that we are using right now with the GraphQL for the same operations.
And also one note that for this value, like configurable, downloadable, we may have a kind of shortcuts. It was proposed by Alex and save somewhere this registry for.
Yeah, so it's just some performance optimization, but in general, this like configurable, etc. So these are option types, which is predefined in enumeration.
Mm-hmm.
Find some shorter names.
Question: why do you need base 64 encode?
To introduce a unique registry of all options and option variants, because we don't want to, and we really don't need to separate downloadable option from customizable option because this is exactly the same for add to cart operation standpoint. We would like to have a unique way to identify an option in our system. In future, in perfect world, I believe we will use kind of UID. But right now, to keep this solution backward compatible, we are going to encode information about option type, option ID, option value ID, and yeah. But by the way, we are going to hide this from a developer. So when we will change this approach with UID, no changes in code will be required. So from the storefront standpoint, this is not a base 64 encode. This is some kind of ID, which is string.
Okay, so how does the query look like when you request all these options? That will include this ID and label or something like that, or what is it?
You just have to request an ID, and you have to receive. You will receive all of this ID with a product query. So product
ID
options query. You don't need a label. Why do you need a label?
Don't need to apply it, probably, right?
Sorry, this is add to cart. You don't need a label here, as far as I remember.
No, I mean originally, like you need to receive this ID somehow to understand. So first you need to display the page with selection, right? So you need ID and label, right? Yeah. That for the cart and Okay.
Yeah, now you just replace current ID, which is usually integer, with string ID, and that's it.
Okay. Any other questions?
Is this to do not have a type of separate type for each specific option?
No.
To do not use many types?
No, actually, you don't need this information because for add to cart, the only thing that you should care about this is merchant selection. As Irina mentioned, exists a difference between images that you want to upload to print them on page, sorry, not on your T-shirt, for instance, and the options that you can choose from select or drop or checkboxes. But inside of this family, actually, there are no need to expose such information. It's enough to say that merchant select this SKO with this set of particular options. By the way, you know that with different product types, you can select a different option types before adding product to cart. So this has even more sense because we will not have to support several input arguments for exactly the same things.
On the backend, we will have to encode all of this.
Yeah, backend will be pretty smart right now. But as I mentioned before, when we will be ready to introduce UID for our option identifiers, we just remove this encoding logic in very backward compatible manner. But from a storefront user, there are no need to understand what we have encoded into this ID, because storefront never should decode it.
Can we add signature to these IDs?
Can I provide an example?
For example, you add some hash with salt and add
No,
this
we
idea.
don't.
Easier
At the first iteration,
validate it.
it's, yeah, probably we can. Yeah, probably we can. For the first iteration, before we will start using UIDs, we will have to provide the possibility to decode this ID on backend. But yeah, as soon as this is possible, this is now not a big deal in which way we encoded them.
Okay, can you add this to the proposal?
Andrei, can I ask you to send a particular example what you would like to see here? I believe it will be really helpful. But in general, yes, you're right, we can add this.
Can you please leave a comment on the proposal so it will be easier, I think?
Yeah, I will do it.
Mm-hmm.
With other, do you have other questions to this proposal, guys?
No, I think let's move to the next one.
Can we merge it? I mean, after adding improvement proposed by Andrei?
I think so.
Okay, great. So let's have a sync-up meeting maybe after this meeting to clarify this and merge. Okay.
Okay. Okay, next one. From Alexander. So I think we discussed this last time. So it's about reports. So we have a proposal now, and I propose to look at it. Everybody can see the screen. So it's about var reports. So there is solution described right now. So if everybody will be okay, we can probably move on with it. So I'll remind, the problem is that sometimes merchants have a lot of reports in the var report directory. It can be caused by different reasons. So one of the reasons is that they don't watch what's going on in the report folder. So with time, those reports accumulate. Another reason can be if there is a critical problem happening in some commonly used path, and with many requests, those reports can accumulate pretty quickly. So that's the problem, and there are a couple solutions to that is proposed. So we discussed this last time, I think. One of the solutions is to generate a hash for each such exception, for each such error, and create a report file based on this hash, meaning the name of the file is based on this hash, and in that way log only unique errors. So like if there will be several errors, several same errors happening, they will not they will not lead to creation of several files. So the hash is based on request URI and script name and exception trace, exception message. So that's one of the solutions. And then we still have exception log file, which will where we will log the same hash. So you can see all occurrences in the exception log file, and you can link it to the specific report file to get more information from it. Okay, any questions to this solution? And before we move to the next one.
In the exception log, instead of exception, we will have link to a single report file.
We will have a message and report ID.
So we still log all of the events, but the stack trace we log once and then just reference.
Any other questions?
Can we
I'm
just
good
have
with proposal.
exception? Can we have stack trace saved along with exception? Just make sure that we don't have anything like time or some unique items. What's the purpose of splitting stack trace and exception message?
Because it's bigger. Stack trace is big. It takes time, and we want to record only unique occurrences. And I think it is separated right now.
It is.
So next part is to fix the issue that all the reports are stored in one folder, and when there are a lot of them, it's impossible to do anything with it. So like you cannot list the directory, etc. So the proposal is to add a setting which would allow you to specify nesting level and save files in in the child directories in subfolders. So you specify a level. If there is level 32, for example, subfolders, like 32 subfolders will be created and the report will be saved there. In that case, we'll have fewer reports in one folder. There is some calculations here, and you'll have still around 4,000 in what scenario, like how many do we have?
In this case, we have 1 million reports files.
Okay, so instead of 1 million reports in one folder, we'll break them down into multiple folders. So this setting, I believe, is proposed to be specified as an environment variable. That's what we can use at this level of application bootstrapping. So we can, as I understand, we can configure it by default for new cloud customers. I don't know about existing ones, and in this way to minimize the problem somehow.
Who will decide that either use 32?
And SI, system integrator. In our case, probably cloud team can decide what will be the default nesting level, and then the store owner can change it to.
I mean, when you are emitting the logs from the application, so something will decide automatically that now I will go to folder number 29 instead of 28.
Okay, got it. So it will be based on the hash of the file itself. What we will be doing, we will be just taking two letters from the hash itself. So you can see that directories just repeat the name of the file. So like we have 42, which is what the file name starts from, and we create folder. Then FF, we have FF here. So it's just based on the name of the file. Any concerns? It should be backward compatible, because by default it will be 0, and only if somebody will specify this environment variable, it will start saving it in subfolders. I think we are also can add it here, right, in errors, pub errors local.xml file.
The problem is that how do we identify optimal nesting level? Is it specific for merchant, or it's yeah? Are you going to provide some recommendation at least?
I don't know.
Yeah, we can provide recommendation. For example, 10,000 files in one directory is enough. So if you have like million, you need divided by 10,000 and like logarithm from 10,000. So you can calculate it.
To be honest, I would recommend, first recommendation would be to monitor those files, and ideally you should have 0 report files in there. Maybe we should come up with some recommendation based on the load. So, for example, based on how many requests per minute they expect to at least allow, I don't know, 1 or a few hours of generated reports to be distributed normally, so you can access them, I would think.
Yeah, actually 2 will be enough for all people.
Okay, so as I understand, we should add some thoughts about recommendations here, right? And then we can convert it, then we'll be able to convert it to the document. Okay, I'll add that note. Anything else to this topic?
One suggestion from my side is because of the large number of files and the accumulation of those files, it's very easy to mess up, right? Even though we are splitting that down, but still the problem is there. So maybe we can use some kind of a light database, like SQLite, MongoDB, very lightweight database, where we can store these kind of stuff.
So those are still exceptional cases, and in good setup, this shouldn't happen. So it's not just logs, it's not regular logs that some event happened. It's those report files are created when there is a real problem on the site. So I would say that first recommendation would be to monitor it and make sure that it doesn't happen. So I would not optimize for this case, because this is an exceptional case and this just shouldn't happen. And the problem with I think, actually, I don't know about MySQLite, but still you need some kind of configuration for that. And we can still specify that in variables program.
Like MongoDB, even there are applications like Meteor framework and some other framework which even runs on your browser, the lightweight MongoDB instance. So similar to that, you can have your local server instance with a copy of lightweight MongoDB, where you can log these kind of exceptions. And because if it's grown out of hand, you cannot even list. I had the similar kind of issue when I was working with Walmart. So I cannot even list the directory, and it was logging so much stuff, spitting out there, uncontrollable. So just a suggestion, maybe.
Yeah, we can discuss that as next improvement if you want to do that. I honestly probably would not invest in that, because I just don't want people to think that this is normal situation that we covered. But we can discuss it. I'll add a comment about that.
I don't remember if we discussed on last meeting, but have you considered storing, instead of creating this directory structure, of writing everything in one file, and after it reaches a certain size, create a new file and add something unique to the name, and then we can have a cron job that would archive old files to make sure they are not wasting space.
It will be backward incompatible.
Do we really care about backward compatibility in this case?
Yeah, we really care about backward incompatibility of Magento.
No, for this particular case.
And for this particular case too.
So do we really know merchants who are using our logs who can be affected, or use cases that will be broken by this change?
Actually, we need to.
Yes.
Answer yes.
Can you describe this?
All our merchants use these files.
If we store them
for what?
To understood problem with the REST system.
But in case just storing approach. We always can do this in backward compatible manner by introducing a new quick writing logs, and it will be up to merchant decision.
If we
So
write
I didn't see a problem. Yeah.
If we write them in a directory structure, wouldn't it also be backwards incompatible to existing way? This about this easier to find something in one file than having this reports like distributed in different files in different folders. And it seems I didn't see examples, but
please read this document careful, and I believe you found answer on your question. Because there are two different problems. One of size of files is why we don't write it in one file, and another is we already overwrite exception in the exception log file. So if you need just exception, you can read exception log, and on our platform we already configure it to like write to some amount and then we rotate it.
Yeah, the problem with one file is it will be hard to distinguish whether you have already logged same error or not. Like how do you know that you already have the same record?
So for this, maybe we need to see what we log and.
But then you need to read the entire file, or how do you see what you log?
Yes, and maybe we don't need to. I don't know. The reason I think about this is because I didn't see examples of this login system implemented anywhere, but I also didn't see a lot of examples of login systems. Okay. I've seen what Apache does and maybe something else, and they work a little different. And the reason I was curious if you guys considered this approach.
Yeah, actually, for example, our caching mechanism that also write many files use a similar approach, and the same approach used, for example, in Jinx to store many files. So it's common for many services to store in hierarchy to prevent too many files in one folder.
Okay, so I would not do it differently unless there are real problems with current approach, because current approach allows us to have unique records easily to achieve this purpose. I don't see any problems with that. It just took already too much time to discuss, so I propose we can sync up after the meeting on this, and I just want to go to the next item. If somebody has any other concerns, questions, please comment on the document. So next item, and I think I missed one item, mine actually. All right.
Good job.
Yeah. So code style guidelines for GraphQL. There are some non-written agreements about code style in GraphQL schema, so I just wanted to write them down. Originally, I just created a task, but there is already some discussion, so I thought that we can talk about it here on the meeting, and based on that, we can create a document for DevDocs there later. So now the agreements that we have is, first one, we should use quantity instead of QTI, so just to not shorten names. Then we should use camel case for queries and mutations. So it's root level fields in GraphQL. Then again, we should use camel case for arguments as well. Right now, looks like we have both camel case and snake case for arguments. So I guess the proposal is to stick with a camel case, and we'll have a test, it will help us. And then upper camel case for types and snake case for fields. So Jed has already commented on that from the front-end perspective. I think the only concern is the last one, which is snake case for fields. As I understand, it's not really convenient for front-end, for JavaScript applications.
That's correct.
That's great. Or what?
No, that's correct. It's not convenient. Yeah. And that's an understatement, because anything that's inconvenient for the front end incurs a payload hit or some sort of performance problem. So we don't want to download a library just to convert those snake case representations into camel case. And also, why are we even being inconsistent in the first place, right? Everything else is camel case. Why are the fields snake case, right? It just doesn't make sense.
I think fields are snake case
by mistake, I believe.
Because of
I would like to support that. Actually, we will not be able to find any example of GraphQL endpoints who are using a snake case for a fields. So
right. Well, I was looking at the GraphQL documentation specifically, and all of their fields were in camel case. Everything else is as you said, like the fields especially too. I just don't understand why you would have two different paradigms in one thing.
Right. I believe by mistake. So fortunately, we can change this in pretty backward compatible manner to deprecate all existing fields and introduce new ones. All existing fields will be supported, and this is pretty straightforward because we have to do. We just have to wrap our resolvers with a kind of mapper which will transform new camel case to a snake case.
And additionally, we have to write some mapping for EAV. We have to write it for inputs and outputs as well.
This is another question, I would say, because EAV, this is okay. EAV attributes. This is right now. This is a schema, but this is something which is specified by a merchant. So I believe that it potentially can be a part of exception. Yeah, definitely. I would prefer to have everything in camel case, but we can discuss this separately.
But it doesn't make sense to introduce these rules partially because it doesn't solve issue with jet traces when you have to use some library to convert.
Agree.
So if you decide to do this, you have to do it everywhere.
So should you use EAV attributes like directly in the JavaScript code as variable? How would you work with EAV attributes? They are dynamic.
I don't know. Maybe it makes sense to return EAV attributes to the container. I don't know. So
Anton, that's a separate question. Let's not discuss it right now. But so for now, what you can do, you can dynamically request available fields in introspection, and then you can query those fields. So that's how would you work with EAV from JavaScript. And if we keep them in snake case, it will be like the same.
To be 100% clear, it's not that you can't do it in JavaScript. It's not that you can't actually use snake case in JavaScript.
Yeah, I'm just saying that if we move to camel case, we have to move completely. We should not keep some exceptions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it would be ideal if you could
otherwise,
do that. Yes.
Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to introduce these backward incompatible changes because everywhere in schema we already use like one approach. It's okay to rename them. It's not really a big deal, I would say, right now at the moment, because it's easy from backward compatibility point of view, and we don't have so many clients at the moment.
Right. What's better now than later, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely possible now, but it will be problematic later. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess everybody mostly okay with the proposed solution, and number 5 will be converted to camel case, right? Okay, we will look into that. So unfortunately we have problems with time, so we need to go quickly with what we still have, I think. Right, so GraphQL product filters.
Yeah. So we kind of discussed this like a couple of meetings back. So based on the new layer navigation changes, what we are going to do is the way we are going to filter products, we are going to dynamically generate all the EAV attributes on the schema. So and also along with that particular change, there is going to add an aggregation, which is going to return what are the possible attributes that can be filtered on based on a given search. So the thing is, the problem that could be a problem with this approach, which could be like that if there is any changes and if there are new EAV attribute is being added, then the schema needs to be refreshed. That is one. And the way currently the clients have to query these attributes is to, based on the applications, they need to map each of the attribute code with the custom attribute metadata query, and then they need to find what UI type this particular attribute is in. And if any attribute is added, the idea was the clients is to cache this particular query. And if an attribute is added, the query needs to be invalidated. So the clients need to be notified saying that, okay, an attribute is being added. So these are the current problems. So the idea was to make this a little more generic. So instead of dynamically generating these attributes on the schema, based on so the clients can know what are the attributes that can be filtered on based on this particular aggregation itself, and then they can use those attributes to filter it. So the difference, so the current query is going to be like this, which is going to be products filter and each of the attributes, which is currently derived from the schema. Based on the new proposal, it's going to look like an array of input types, where filter is an array, and the array, it's an array of attribute code and the proper type which it belongs to. And also the type which it belongs to can be returned as a part of the aggregations. So it will be useful for the clients to directly use it and then query it, rather than calling another query and then caching it and then doing all the invalidation purpose. This was the idea. And like any questions for?
So still in your example of the request, you need to specify this category ID and price, right?
Yes. So the clients will come to know this particular category ID and the price based on the aggregations output. Mm-hmm. So when they do this first initial search, they will get back all the possible list of custom attributes that can be filtered on, and then the clients can use those set of attributes to do the further searches.
Mm-hmm.
So I just would like to mention that it still doesn't solve the issue that we have to regenerate like cache because of adding new EV attributes, because you still have them present on the pages, and it's not the only place.
I see it is not the only place, but it is at least the problem can be solved here.
I'm not sure it will help, because you have to clear cache anyway, and we actually have some discussion going on in parallel, which may completely change all this. So it will solve probably all issues. It's about getting back to containers like for everything.
So another question. So if an EAB attribute is being added, do we need to like regenerate the schema again currently?
Yes. You have to do it anyway, because if you want to show some attribute on the page, it's not only for filters, it's just for displaying the attribute value, you have to regenerate schema.
All right. And so how will the clients know if an EAB attribute is being added? So based on this current approach, so whenever a new attribute is being added, they need to clean their cache of the custom attribute metadata query. So how will the clients know that if an EAB attribute is being added on the server?
So I don't see how your proposal will solve it. Like same way, like it doesn't.
Because my proposal will solve it because they need not even worry about what are the attributes are there on the schema. Because anyway, the aggregations output will return the list of possible attributes, and then the output will kind of drive the input. So if an EAB attribute is added in the aggregation output, it is going to tell you what are the new attributes that are being added along with the possible types. So the clients can use that particular data and then use it to query it.
So I propose to go through whole scenario. So like, for example, what would be the scenario? First, display page with live navigation, and then, yeah, so that will be probably the scenario. So you need to describe show which queries will be necessary for that, like all this aggregation query, and like how you get all this information, then for displaying the product. And then, if I understand correctly, we still have, you mentioned, Alex, still that there is still problem with caching. For the product page you meant, or the product listing to show those attributes?
For any. It doesn't matter, because...
So like then we need second scenario is product page. So in that case, I mean, we still need to mention that for that scenario we need to clean cache, right? We need to refresh cache. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, so let's maybe go through those scenarios just to make sure that everybody
Okay. And also one other community member, he mentioned the issue like because some stores generally have like hundreds of attributes, and having more number of attributes is going to flood the schema. So even they were suggesting to go with a collection kind of approach, which is similar kind of an approach, rather than like flooding the schema with all the set of attributes, having a generic type which can accommodate all these attributes, whatever the type it belongs to.
Okay.
And that's something that we are discussing in scope of some other meetings.
Okay, so
I would, if you're really interested, we can probably invite you into those discussions, but I would probably not merge this now because it doesn't solve issue completely. It solves it in one specific place, but at the same time it doesn't help merchants because merchants still have to clear cache. Or like application has to know how to clear, when to clear cache, when attributes ready. It doesn't have this knowledge.
Yeah. So again, on the current approach itself, like, so this is being implemented currently and it's going to be merged. And so how will the clients know that they need to clean the cache?
They have no idea.
So it's going to be like some timely.
But it's the same as now. Like how clients know when the page changed, when you add attribute. Like you have page cache. If you cache something on client side, I mean it's your problem. Like you have PTL. You probably have to wait until PTL expires and then your page is cleared. If you rely on server-side cache, then we have a way to clear cache, like purge cache from server. Let's say if it's varnish, we can purge it by tags and we can do that. But if you cache something on client side, it's your responsibility to figure out how to clear.
Yes. So again, on the same, it might break their code is what I'm trying to say. So let's say during the aggregation, when a new attribute is being added, it's going to come up on the client side. But the new attribute is, since they are going to be caching this custom metadata query, so this is not going to be, the new attribute will not be available on the cached version. So there will be some inconsistencies there.
So for combining metadata query with actual aggregations response, I suppose it makes sense. So to respond, how we call this field, like filters, how we call it aggregations now. So in response to products, we give possible aggregations, and in scope of those aggregations, we can include metadata. That may make sense.
So so there's kind of like two parts of the proposal, but if we can at least add the type of the meta attributes on the aggregations response, and we take the responsibility of letting the clients know what this attribute, what type of attribute this is, then I think it will solve that particular problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, we have just one item. Igor, are you moving it second time to the next meeting, or is it different?
I think it's a different item.
Okay, so do you want to continue discussing because we are out of time already? And or can we move to the next one? Maybe you can discuss it offline.
Yeah, let's discuss it on the next meeting, but it will be good if we review it offline.
Okay, so guys, start reviewing. The absence of a meeting doesn't stop you from reviewing it. And then we are done for today. So many items. Thanks all. See you next time.
All right.